Welcome to How We Heard It, the podcast about music, pop culture, movies, and more, with your hosts, Wayne Bledsoe and Chuck Campbell.
Yasu, this is Chuck Campbell with
Wayne Bledsoe and
Yasu, this is John.
All right,
Baker.
Hello to you in Greek. I've seen Greece pop up here and there on our listenership stats. So hello, Greece. You have good food over there, beautiful beaches. So
great desserts.
Great desserts, yeah. They got that what's ouzo or something like that. That tastes.
Well, I could say it until you just said that, and it went out of my head. All I can think of is a pork dish, souvlaki, which I love.
Okay, I like baklava. Anyway,
Baklava, yes.
Yeah, we love Greek Fest when it comes to Knoxville every year. So our topic today was you had a suggestion, and then we decided to build on it a little bit. So we're going to start with the premise of imagine a world without music.
Right, and it's very difficult.
We were all three just talking about how I don't even know how to begin to conceptualize a world without music at all.
The first thing is there would be a whole lot less birds and insects.
Well, that's what I was. That's what I thought too. I thought we can't do this without birds singing and whales wailing and all that stuff. You know, it's like.
And it basically boils down to how do you define music? Because music is just an assembly of sounds.
Right.
I mean, if you can hear,
I mean, the
world is full of music.
Yeah, and waves in the ocean are a rhythm. The wind in the leaves of trees,
and your heartbeat. I mean, your heartbeat is a rhythm, and it's like, I mean, that's the thing. Is so much of what it always drove me crazy when they would like cut music school. I mean, music classes in schools, because it's like, I mean, this is the thing that sticks with you. I mean, we've talked about it before. When my mom worked in the nursing home, it'd be like the last thing people would remember was a song.
Right.
After they'd forgotten the names of their kids.
Right.
And
it just taps so directly into your sense of memory too.
Yeah.
I mean, I've mentioned this before, but there's a documentary about Glenn Campbell on his last tour when he was, had Alzheimer's, and he had a nephew and a niece that were sort of his handlers on the tour that sort of had to direct him to where he was going, and he didn't even halfway know what was going on around him, but then put a guitar in his hand and he just like lit up and could play all of that amazing chicken picking stuff without thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, I interviewed Roy Acuff when he was in his 80s, late 80s, and it was hard to get anything out of him. And then I was backstage at the Opry, and then he walked out on stage, and man, he was on. It was like, there's Roy Acuff, and he's doing the same thing he did every time. And
my father never got really deep into memory loss, but it was starting to go on him. And but the one thing we could do, just get in the car and turn on like the 50s or 60s station on the radio, and he just lit up and knew every song and could talk about it. Seemed like he was remembering other things too when the music came in. It brought other memories, not just of the music.
Yeah, well, that's the I mean, I can remember I can remember what music was playing in so many different situations.
Yeah.
When I first heard a song, and it's like I don't know what my memory would be like if I didn't have it.
Go ahead.
Well, when the subject was put out there, and I just started to kind of think about it, and I kind of thought about, well, what if you could only see in black and white? Yeah. I mean, is that comparable? I don't know.
No. Well, there's plenty of people who do fine without seeing in color. I mean, there's plenty of colorblind people in the world.
Well, there are a lot of deaf people too. I mean, to be fair,
that's true, but they still can feel rhythms.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, when I would review concerts, there was always a sign language person there signing because they know
and dancing around a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like they can feel the rhythms and they can read the lyrics or hear the lyrics, through sign, see them.
Well, that reminds me of a couple of years back at the Bonnaroo Music Festival. We noticed the sign language interpreter interpreting for Megan Thee Stallion, which is just funny.
Someone needs to.
I could probably do the sign language for that one.
You just mainly need one finger.
Well, sometimes you need two hands.
You learn how to sign a lot of words you didn't know before, probably.
Yeah, but
Well, so cutting to the chase here for me is like, I don't have a sci-fi kind of mind that can just map out this whole world without even, like birds and just humming and whistling and stuff like that. So I kind of narrowed it in. Did you guys think of anything about how.
Well, I thought a lot about rhythm and just the fact. I mean, imagine if you and rhythm's part of music. It's like how spastic we'd all be.
Yeah.
I mean, you do so many things because you get a rhythm in your head, and like you learn.
Oh God, I know.
And you learn.
I'd be free from some things because sometimes it'll get stuck in my head.
Oh, yeah.
And go away, but yeah.
Yeah, but that just shows you how powerful it is too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just so hard to picture how. I mean, things would look different because you don't have that in your head when you're creating art, when you're creating architecture.
Right.
I think it goes so deep that we would be a completely different species.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know us in this room, we're even more music oriented than the average person. But I mean, I've got music going on pretty much all the time when I'm doing anything.
Right. And you learn the alphabet through music. I mean,
right.
And it's like, my oldest kid who was bad at math like I was, he learned the multiplication tables because we had the singing multiplication tables.
Well, you remember Schoolhouse Rock?
Yeah.
You know, history lessons and math
yeah.
lessons, all the multiplication tables and
Civics.
what adverbs were and verbs and
Yeah.
I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill.
Right. Well, like I said, I don't know how to conceptualize that. So I decided to kind of narrow it down from my perspective to just what if music was not commercially accessible, and like go back in time. It wasn't until I don't know, you know better than I do, but when the first commercial radio stations were like the 1920s, and then the mass production and commercial availability of like vinyl and stuff like that was more like 30s. I'm sure you know older stuff than that.
Well,
but,
it wasn't vinyl; it was actually Bakelite, and
well, they had the cylinders too. Were those ever
Wax
commercial
cylinders.
things, or were those?
yeah, they were commercial. I mean, what's interesting to me, because I'm in some of these groups where they go back, it's like how much. I mean, a 78, a single, cost $1.
Wow, that was a lot back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about the 20s and the 30s, and you're spending $1 on this piece of music.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like would be like buying a vinyl album right now as far as how much it was worth.
That's why I wanted to do a more modern context, because I mean, if you just look at what the phones have done and what mobile phones have done and how different our lives are just because of that, I thought, well, let's find some kind of equivalent to where all of the world existed with music, but without the kind of commercial play and unless you were an elite, and I mean, you had symphonies and you had ballets and you had opera and stuff like that, but it was not commercial radio. I think was the start of it, and then the commercial availability of recordings to just anybody and everybody. And then I was looking more at the golden era of radio, which is kind of the 40s, World War II, until TV came along. And how like in less than 10 years, 60% of Americans had radios, like in the 30s.
Yeah.
So when that happened, it's like, imagine if that hadn't happened. Imagine if somehow music was just never going to be available like that, and it still would have a huge impact on everything.
Well, one of the things they fought about radio was, they were afraid it was going to kill live music.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there were all these, the publishers and everybody were pissed off and tried to keep, like have laws so you had to have so much live music on the radio.
Okay.
And there's still, I think Italy still has a law. There's different places out there where you had to have live music for a certain percentage of your programming. That's what the FCC would do back then. So, but what's interesting is instead of hurting live music, it expanded it.
Right.
Well, it seems like they do that every time some new technology comes around. I remember on the backs of vinyl records that there would be a little thing that said home taping is killing music, because they were thinking people would make a tape of an album and give it to a friend, and that denied the record company.
Oh my God, VCRs.
Profits.
Oh yeah, well,
DVDs, CDs.
I don't know if you remember the Dead Kennedys released a cassette that had that on there, and they said, so we left the other side of this tape blank. So you could record
what you
it.
want on the other
You
side.
record whatever you want on the other side. I love the Dead Kennedys.
Well, Well, anyway, so I was thinking of that, just thinking of what if it was much harder to get to. And I did find something from the Waldorf School, which I didn't know much about, but they are kind of an arts-oriented type, not just homeschooling. They have schools too. Look them up. The leader's kind of controversial, as leaders tend to be. But they had an interesting thing that really brought to light, like, what would the world be like if we didn't have music, or at least not in the way that we have it available to us now. And what you were saying about how humanity would change is absolutely true, because they said music, of course, helps us process our feelings. It helps us celebrate. It helps calm us down. It's kind of like a psychotherapy drug, only without the drug part. Because you can use it for whatever you need it for. Yeah. But beyond that, so without it, we'd probably be more anxious. We'd probably be more inclined to depression. We'd probably feel more isolated.
Oh, for sure.
And all of those things. And also, music bonds us to each other. So, like, and in so many different concerts or church or, sports, and we got music in the middle of sports. So people enjoy music together, which is a bonding experience, which creates more empathy. There's more ingrained empathy.
There's some inbred empathy too.
Yeah, this is East Tennessee.
We got to talk about inbreeding now and then. But so I think that we would probably be less empathetic people if we weren't, if we didn't have stuff to bond us to each other. Yeah. Music is probably one of the most common bonding things.
I just don't think we would be people if we didn't have music. I mean, I think it's probably one of the first artistic expressions that human beings ever exhibited was singing, humming.
Yeah. Well, imagine too, like bars without music and weddings without music.
Yeah.
It's like bars without cigarettes.
Yeah. Well, there's certain religions, where they forbid music because they think it's so powerful.
Right.
Well, it is powerful.
Yeah. It is powerful.
And I can't.
It's so powerful, I don't even know what religions those are. I know there are some out there. I remember Footloose, people were forbidden to dance at least. But.
Well, and this also brings up an idea that I've encountered many times, is that the most oppressed, poor, downtrodden people tend to have the most uplifting, happy music.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, reggae music, for example. Poverty is just grinding in Jamaica.
Right.
Yeah.
People down there don't have 2 cents to rub together, and yet they make some of the most joyous music.
Yeah.
I mean, the world music movement, I think it was pretty big in the 80s when you saw all these
Fela Kuti.
from Africa, from Asia, and just countries that weren't as economically, advanced.
I mean, it's almost like the music. It's like you make music to will the existence you want to have into existence.
Right.
Well, that and just, it's the only way to express sometimes what the horrible things you're going through. I mean, think about, some of the blues songs and some of the, old country songs back before it was called country. I mean, they were murder ballads and, stuff that was talking about the most awful stuff in the world, but it was also a catharsis to get it out there.
Right. I mean, it's good during funerals, it helps people process feelings, weddings,
I was just recently at a funeral for my uncle, and I'm not a real super emotional. I am pretty emotional, I guess. I'll have to own up to that, but I don't. But the thing that made me cry was the music at the funeral.
Yeah.
And because it was at an Episcopal church. I was raised in the Episcopal church, and it was an Easter service that they used for the funeral. And the Easter music were hymns that I've heard since I was just a little kid. And it doesn't matter what the words were. It was just those melodies, and they hit me just full force, and I could not keep from crying.
Huh. This uncle, he was inspiring to you, too.
He definitely was.
Yeah,
he's the reason I picked up playing guitar.
Was he a musician?
Oh, yeah.
Sort? Oh, okay.
He played in bands in the 50s here
in
in Knoxville.
You've lost him,
Yeah, well, he made an impression on everyone that knew him.
Right.
A good impression.
Right. And I was just thinking about just day-to-day life, like for me, driving, working out. I can't imagine what that would be like without music. Watching movies or TV.
I know. Have you ever seen, seems like I've seen scenes of movies that people have cut and just cut the music out of it, and it's just dialogue, and you think, man, this This is not compelling at all.
I'm trying to think. There was a movie that was made specifically without music. Of course,
well, Halloween, the movie Halloween didn't have music on it when John Carpenter first put it out there, and people were bored.
They were the best thing about it is the music.
So he just made this little, just very simple little riff,
little 3-note thing.
It just changed the whole experience for people.
Well, John Carpenter's one of the. He's a great director, but as far as a soundtrack composer, he's one of the most effective soundtrack composers out there. I think he's terrific.
Yeah, I agree.
What else has he done?
Well, all of his movies, basically. The Thing is. I'm pretty sure that's all John Carpenter's stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm not a big horror movie buff,
that's
as
true.
you know.
That's true. You're not.
I don't like being scared. I'm scared anyway.
Yeah.
Listen to more music. It'll help ease your anxiety.
But it's one of the things that I love to do. It's one of the reasons I like silent movies. When if you go someplace where somebody's playing a live score, it makes it so much better.
Yeah.
I used to watch silent movies on my old, like projector and put music on. Of course I did.
Golly.
Yeah, I know. But then you put on music and try to sync up things that worked. But then I've seen there was Big Ear is one of the best musical experiences I've ever had. There was a documentary about a little town in Mexico where they made fireworks, and it was very unregulated, very dangerous, and there was a couple of groups, Neef North and then maybe So Percussion, I can't remember, but they did a percussion soundtrack, and it was amazing.
I saw Bill Frisell and his band do the soundtrack to a movie about a Mississippi River flood in 1923.
It was terrific.
It was amazing.
And they did, I can't remember which group it was now, that did a soundtrack for No Country for Old Men, which doesn't have a whole lot of music in it. It's just like barely there at all. And it was that one, the original music was okay, but it was just so much fun to watch a live band perform to this. And it was a different experience.
Do you remember the one? This is, again, at Big Ears, but it was Andy Warhol did all of the...
I didn't see this.
He filmed all of the different... They weren't even necessarily actors, just people that were hanging around the factory. Yeah. And he would just put a camera on them and just say, not give them any direction. I'm just filming you. And then, Luna, the band Luna, did soundtrack music to all these different... And it's amazing we're just staring at someone and you can tell it's motion picture. Yeah. You can see them blinking and breathing, but they're not doing anything.
We know another thing, which you take away the visuals, Tool did a concert where there was no lights on stage. All you could see like Maynard's silhouette because they had a big screen up. And it was, at first you're like, well, what the hell's going on here? But then you're paying attention to the music because, that's why you're there.
Right.
And it was one of the coolest concerts I've ever seen. And there was I couldn't see the band. They were literally silhouettes up there. Mm-hmm. But it was fun.
Well, so we had the golden age of radio, and that faded in the 50s with the advent of television.
Right.
But also in the 50s was when we started the rock and roll era, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that like mid-50s?
Yeah, about 54 is where you start rock and roll.
Was that?
With Elvis.
Elvis, okay.
Yeah, there was rock, but then Elvis is the person who just made it a phenomenon.
Right. And we've arguably are still in that era, even though rock isn't what we call most of the music that's out.
Well, they got to apply new labels every time.
Yeah. Right.
Every time something new comes along, they come up with a name for it.
But it's interesting because you always had these movements. You'd have stars that would grab everybody. Before the Beatles, before the Beatles was Elvis, before Elvis was Frank Sinatra.
Right.
And then you had classical music like Franz Liszt. Right. Who had these?
Okay.
Yeah, no, you had these.
They were the rock stars of their day.
They were.
Yeah.
And then we had the I can't think of her name, Lily Langtry. I think that was it Lily Langtry. I think so. That would tour the West, and but people would turn out like crazy.
Everyone could go. Is it more of a elite type event?
Well, no, that was what was cool about it. Is they were taking music and they would take opera and stuff out into the West. For a lot of these people, you'd never seen this, or people they were all immigrants from someplace, generally in the East.
Right.
But so they would go out and they would build these opera houses, and they had regular music. I mean, and
cheap admission, or
well, I would think fairly cheap admission. I mean, they've set up stuff in bars, and of course, in Appalachia and all through the mountains, you had fiddle contests and just they would have dances, and all you'd have is a fiddler. That's why you have so many fiddle tunes in bluegrass music, and everybody bases it off fiddle tunes, because all you had was one guy playing the fiddle.
Right. Well, pianos weren't as
portable.
You
could, I mean, that was the thing about the fiddle, is it was portable and you could show up anywhere.
Yeah. And a lot of that bluegrass stuff just happened on people's front porches. I mean, just be a hootenanny on someone's front porch, and everybody bring a,
Well, what do you think would have replaced music, if anything could have replaced music? I mean, you think people would have doubled down on this? Is what that Waldorf suggests, is that there would probably be more other type of arts that can help people, be it visual art. It mentioned dance, but I thought, well, you're going to have dance without music, I guess.
I think it might be like theater, or like people traveling from town to town with the Chaucer's tales, or
Right.
Yeah, but of course,
just word of mouth storytelling, performance.
Yeah, but even in ancient Greece, apparently they had people singing parts and things like that. So I mean, it would be, music is such a part of theater too.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, like Greek theater.
Yeah. There was the chorus.
Yeah. And that's how you got all the points across. Was the chorus would sing.
In case you missed it, we'll sing a verse for you.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it would just be, everything would be so much flatter and duller.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where I got the whole thing about seeing in black and white versus color.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever seen the videos of people who were colorblind that get fitted with glasses that allow them to see color, and they just like lose their mind?
Yeah.
There was a great one of that at the Smokies years ago. I don't know if you remember when they were on overlook, and I guess it was probably fall, and and he was able to see color for the first time, and just was crying.
Yeah, just couldn't even believe that.
Right.
Well, I mean, and you got to think, we have 5 senses, 5 piddling little senses, and there's things going on in the world that we just don't have the sensory array to appreciate. And think what it would be like if all of a sudden, you could see magnetic waves or
infrared
or any number of things. I mean, it opens your mind up to think, well, we're just pretty limited.
Yeah, but still with that, I think it's more like, that's more like, okay, somebody could only hear guitars. Somebody can only hear one instrument. And then you hear like a symphony come in. I mean, it would be the same thing, I think. I mean, first time I went to a classical performance when I was a kid, it was just like, wow, all these instruments. And it's like, it fills you up because it's so big.
Yeah.
Well, and seeing that many human beings all cooperate together is inspiring too. I mean, it really is. That's why I love playing with other people rather than just playing by myself.
I mean,
I like a team.
Couldn't get along, and that was just 2 guys.
I just prefer team sports.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Or group activities. Maybe I should
too.
say.
I don't like solo tennis and stuff like that.
It's really hard to play tennis by yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it's a lot of running.
One person to pull for. It's like, I like it when there's a team.
It's funny. I don't like sports generally, but when I watch the Olympics, it's always like the solo stuff I like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess there would be something to fill the void. I think it would probably be, like you say, performance, some kind of theater, some kind of spoken word, maybe something mixed with comedy. And I do think that visual arts we would probably just adjust so that we're like taking it in visually more than audibly, obviously.
Well, and I think it was Nietzsche who said, life without music would be worthless.
Yeah.
And there's one of the great philosophers of all time.
Well, it was my favorite thing. It was like a joke. It's like Nietzsche, his quote said, "God is dead." And then there was a quote under it that said, "Nietzsche is dead, God."
And what's that? There's a great Frank Zappa quote about writing about music is like dancing about architecture. Yeah. But you guys are music writers, so
yeah, no, I didn't really take any offense at what Frank said, but it's difficult. I mean, it's like when we would try to describe a piece of music.
So hard to articulate that.
It is, and you're trying to compare it to this or that somebody may have heard, and then there's sometimes it's just like
uncategorizable.
You have to pull something out of the air. You have to pull out like a visual. I remember I was describing like a guitar sound, and I said it sort of felt like rusty water pouring down an electric wire, because it's like that's just something you can't hear it.
You can sense it.
But you can imagine that visual, and it's like...
it's like I've turned a bunch of people on. I turned you guys on to that duo from Quebec, Engine de Poitrine. It's a drummer and a guitar player, and they're dressed up in these crazy, outrageous costumes and headdresses, and you can't even tell that you can tell they're human, but that's something new, and I don't know, how did you describe that?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I can only break it down into technical stuff. It's like there's a drummer and a guitar player, and the guitar has two necks. One is a bass and one is a six string, and he loops everything.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I can explain the technical aspects of it, but if you're not a technician, then that doesn't really matter that much. I mean,
I was trying to figure out a Throwing Muses album in their early days. It may have been their first one. And I said something like, because I thought, I can't make sense of this. I can't compare it to anybody. I said, it was like sitting down to do a crossword puzzle, only none of the pieces go together. And they like that so much, they use an excerpt of it to promote some show in New York, the publicist.
That's cool.
Yeah. Then I found out more about her, and she was trying to put the pieces together in her, like Kristen Hirsch, not Tanya Donnelly. But anyway, it's very hard to articulate music. And we've had that problem. It's like you don't want to say the same thing. You want to avoid the certain words. I remember when I first started writing reviews, some guy in the newsroom said, "Is it haunting?" And I said, "Well, I guess you could call it haunting." He goes, "I hate when people use the word haunting in a review," and that haunted me my whole career. Yeah. And I'm not sure I ever said anything was haunting, just because that one guy, and I don't even remember exactly which one it was back in the newsroom. There are a couple I know, but and I was just afraid to use that word, And it's like you don't want to use anything generic, You don't want to just say, "Oh, it's great," and this is really good,
Well, and I also think, I do it because I don't have any other choice. But like saying they sound like so and so, that's just that's kind of cheap.
Had to do that.
You have to do it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. You got to give somebody some kind of hint somehow,
some kind of frame of reference.
I remember I interviewed avant-garde saxophonist Ellery Eskelin, and he said that some critic had compared his music unfavorably to like a hornet's nest thrown into a tin can or into a barrel.
Okay.
And I said, well, that kind of sounds good to me.
Yeah,
and he said,
I've used the term "be inside a jar" as like a really cool rhythm of some sort, where you hear kind of ricocheting around. So that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, well, this is kind of a weird roar.
Right.
And when I said, "Yeah, that kind of sounds good to me," he goes, "Yeah, I really like that." And he was trying to insult me.
I remember thinking something was muddy electricity, and if that sounds good to you, then go for the muddy electricity.
Yeah.
Well, we're kind of moving this into more of a personal thing,
right.
So we can do that. Since all three of us have been pretty heavily invested in music and part of what we do, Wayne and I, of course, is like long-time music critics.
But we didn't start about writing music.
No,
neither one of us.
No, we didn't. And John, of course, you worked at record stores, but you've got your own studio, and you're a musician yourself and a producer.
And I have written some music reviews too. There was an independent paper in Memphis that I used to review albums for. So I'm not unfamiliar with the concept.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'm just saying that without music, none of that would have happened.
Yeah.
So, what would you have seen yourself doing?
I don't know. That's why it's such a difficult subject, because music is just so elemental part of me. I can't separate myself from music, really.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the way we brought this up is there was a story I wanted Chuck to talk about. Because
I won't get there just yet.
Okay, well, we'll get there then. But that was the thing, is when we both started writing.
Right.
Neither one of us started writing about music.
Nope.
I mean, I got like community stuff I did, and also did I think if I had not been writing about music, I would have been writing about the weirdest stories I could find.
Right.
I went and did a story on a nudist camp up in Crossville, which has turned into a swingers camp now.
Right.
And
it all started with you.
No, it didn't. But
the Wayne Bledsoe Memorial Nudist Camp.
Not at all. Not at all. But I also did one of my favorite stories I ever wrote was I went out and followed the guy who picks up the dead animals off the highway because I thought, who the hell does that?
Oh, yeah.
It was like my favorite line I ever started a story with was, "It sure is a beautiful day," said Tom Cottard as he threw the carcass of a dead dog in the back of his truck. And I had this woman who called up the paper furious about that. "This was a Sunday morning. This ruined my entire Sunday morning." She called the editor about that.
Wow.
But it was great because I met this guy and this is what he did, and it was, I love, talking to people that do odd things that.
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's a good thing that music's there because music is a constant stream of weirdos.
Oh, yeah.
It sure is.
I mean, you and I, Wayne, as we've established, just really appreciate. I think we're both connoisseurs of the weird.
But, the thing is about it is it's like, I think what we both get down to is the real humanity of it and the sweetness. There was a outsider group, a couple of cousins who were in their 70s or 80s when I was writing about them, even Lori. And, I listened to their album and I loved it. And I loved them. I mean, they were just so sincere. And they were total weirdos. I mean, wonderful, sweet people, and they were off kilter.
Well, we don't have the same taste, but I do have a taste in weirdos, and I've got a whole collection of weirdos that I've liked and listened to. Not the same. You guys kind of bond over a lot of the weirdos.
Yeah.
But I do think that you're right that we probably would have been writing in some way or another. But my mind was like, I wasn't invested in music like you guys were growing up and all that stuff. And in school, I was just kind of getting into it. And I majored in journalism just because I was the editor of the high school newspaper and, on the yearbook board. And I wrote a column for the local paper in my high school's town. And when it came time to declare a major, like I was like, I want something to put me on the path right away. I'm not going to be an undecided and be in college for 10 years. It's like, I want to get this over with and get through it. And so I declared journalism, and suddenly, they just spell out exactly what you got to take. And the whole time, for years, I was carrying my college guide catalog around looking for another major. And I would sit there in journalism classes and look for something else. And, I just kept building up the credits to get a degree in communications. And I found more things interesting about it than I realized. And I do feel like I do like journalism. I just don't know if I would have survived like a full career of it without the music, because it got harder. Journalism, when we first got into it, was very much viable, profiteering, the company's making money. You're getting raises every year.
Company making lots
Nobody's being laid off. And, you only talk about layoffs in terms of other businesses and all that. Yeah. And then just the hard news people who just love the hard news. And I like that to a degree, but I like other people doing it. I had to write some of it myself, and it was like, okay, I don't think I could live like this every day because it's just unnerving,
But
enjoyment has got to be a part of the equation, I think.
Well, the difference with hard news to me, too, is, the actual work's in the reporting.
Right.
I was always, you remember how people used to turn their noses up at us writing features?
Sure.
And it's like, it's much harder to write a feature than it is to write a hard news story, because you have to figure out what the story is.
Yeah.
Hard news, it's out there. Right. You find out, this is happening.
Right.
You know the lead. Everything
hard
about
news
it.
There's a lot of skills that the great hard news reporters have that I didn't have, and that's like mining their resources and their contacts and being where they need to be all the time and learning to listen to a press conference and realize where you needed to go next and you had to be fearless, and you had to talk to You had to talk to people who maybe committed crimes. You had to talk to people who lost someone in their family, like,
and people who didn't want to
people who did not want to talk to.
That was the difference. We would talk to people who, for the most part, either they wanted to talk to us or they understood the importance
that they had to.
Yeah,
right.
and
it wasn't animosity.
Yeah, and we were good at those people.
If you're good at what you do, you learn, like you guys both did, how to tease things out rather than, well, tell me where this came from.
Yeah, and how to make people comfortable. Yeah. Because that's the thing. Hard news people, I don't think we're good at putting people at ease.
I constantly tried to get hard news people, like if I knew they liked a singer or something like that, say, you want to interview this person? They're like, oh God, I could never. I mean, people who would like walk up to the governor and say, is it true you had an affair with so and so? They're like, oh no, I couldn't talk to this singer. I don't know what I would say. So yeah, they had some intimidation too, but I have huge respect for investigative journalism.
Oh, I do too.
It just wasn't anything that I could do or even edit particularly well. I could do breaking news, but I could edit breaking news. But as far as just digging down, it's like I have great admiration for those people, even if they didn't respect what we did particularly.
Right.
But,
Well, but I've always said, the real talent in hard news is in the reporting side of it, not the writing side, for the most part. There were some great writers in hard news, but I still think the hardest thing that they did was the investigative part and doing that sort of thing, whereas the hardest thing that we did was figuring out, okay, how do I make this interesting?
How do I make this interesting? Right.
Yeah.
And that you don't have to worry about that in hard news. It's just interesting because of the facts.
Because it's news.
You don't have to decorate it with words and clever interviews, and anything like that. So totally different type journalism. I've had my hands in all of it over the years. And there were a lot of times when it's like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And one of the things, and John, I know you took a lot of psychology classes. When I was at UT, one thing I was most interested in was the psychology classes I took. Mm-hmm. And I always thought, I could be a psychologist. And you could have too. Why did you opt not to go down that route?
Well, I didn't really. I worked as a counselor for a number of years. I never got a doctorate, but I have a master's degree in counseling, and I worked as a counselor for a number of years.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. I counseled people with various different disability groups. I worked with people with HIV and AIDS in the end of the 90s when it was a death sentence.
Oh, yeah.
I worked with people with multiple sclerosis, and then the last job I had in Little Rock, Arkansas, I was working with people with spinal cord disabilities.
Right.
Well, so,
Well, I got a lot of respect for that, too.
Well, and I have to say that I got to a certain point where I was just tired of working with broken people.
That's
I feel guilty about it, but
that's what ultimately turned me against psychology. It's like I love helping people if I can, and I love helping people sort through their problems, but I'm too empathetic. I don't think I could divorce myself.
It's hard
from that.
not to take
and
stuff
if you've
home
got
with
people
you.
Coming in with just like these inescapable problems, I think I would just take that home with me.
Yeah, I did.
Well, see, what's funny is like the first grief counselor I went to, and he was like, only a good grief counselor for me because he was just somebody that didn't know the situation.
That's the key to any therapeutic situation is you need to be talking to a stranger.
Yeah, but I said one day, because I always want to find out a little bit about them and how they handle it. And I said, well, how do you handle everybody's problems? And I said, carrying around everybody's problems. He goes, I never think about it when I leave this room.
Yep.
And, what was funny is
it sounds so cold, but that's what you have to do.
It's a survival strategy.
I think it's a survival skill, but with him, I thought about, that's the kind of counseling I'm getting because I know you don't. But then I went to, in fact, the last person I went to who remembered things rather from his notes. You could tell he'd actually thought about suggestions and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I do think you have to distance yourself enough so that, you don't just, mull over these people's problems. But I do think you have to, think creatively about, what might help this person? Right. What might I say that might help this person? In one of my cases with the last guy I went to, he used a certain word about something, and it was like, I told him, I said, thank you for using that word. That's the word I needed to hear.
Okay.
And it was, it helped a lot.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, this is a diversion, but I still use my counseling skills all the time. Right. I find people open up to me all the time.
I do too.
It's just part of my personality.
Yeah.
And that ties in with music. When people are in here in the studio trying to make music, I think there's a lot of psychology in artistic expression.
Chad Atkins told me that's why he stopped being a producer. As he said, you know, he had to be a counselor too.
Yeah,
it's like
people
bring in all their problems to you, and you've got to deal with it. And I kind of had the feeling he was talking about the Everly Brothers to some extent because he produced some of their last stuff, but when they were on RCA. But I got it. I think that's what a producer does.
Yeah.
Well, I was an amateur psychologist for friends and everything for a long time, and I kind of started shifting on that because I noticed some people, they just want to talk and they're not really looking for your advice. Yeah. And I would just invest so much of my energy, some people we worked with, into helping them with their problems. But once I saw, like it started with a friend of mine, not, at the paper, but once I saw they weren't taking any of my advice at all, I just stopped talking. And I would just say, if you want to talk, you can talk, but I'm putting a lot more energy into your problems than you are. Yeah. And I'm trying to think of things that you can do and blah, blah, blah. And you just want to talk. So if you want to talk, go ahead. I don't have any advice for you.
I always called those people yes buts.
Yeah.
Because you'd say, well, what if you did this? Well, yeah, but that won't work.
I can't.
Yeah. That won't work because I can't do that. Like, well, okay.
Okay, well, you know what? Just take a sleeping pill then. I don't know. I don't know if that'd be the best psychiatrist in the world.
Yeah, take a bunch of these.
Take
I'm tired of hearing you.
Take a fistful. Yeah. Stop bothering me with all your problems.
Yeah, well, I think because I was the same kind of person. And it's like there comes a point where their problems start becoming your problems, and you're going to have to stop.
And then you can't have any problems anymore because your time and brain is all occupied by other people's problems.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, I think I was talking with Sarah yesterday. We took a drive, and it's just like, there are certain people, we all know them, that you can be friends with them, but only so far.
Right.
They're friends that stay at arm's distance.
Well, every relationship has a proximity that's the best, and some friends you draw close and stay really close with. But I've got some other friends that at a distance we're fine.
Right. Yeah.
But any closer and it's not going to work out.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I think everybody has to have that. Have to figure out where everybody fits in your parameters.
Right. And I could not do that in psychology. I couldn't have done that. Another thing that I thought I would want to be, and I don't even know why, I think as a kid I thought it would be something I would want to do, is be a lawyer.
Oh, wow.
And but I liked, the whole, I don't know, I liked it. I liked the thought of it. I liked the thought of being one, all my friends I wanted to be an athlete too. I wanted to be like a professional athlete. Probably not football because I didn't want to get the hell beat out of me, but but either baseball or basketball. The goal isn't to beat each other up in those two. But just thought, hitting the winning 3-pointer in a championship game or hitting a home run, and winning the World Series. But I knew that was never going to happen. I could barely make a layup. Yeah. So, and just stuff like acting and musicians and all that. But. Somehow the lawyer thing seemed like a good idea until I thought more about it. And and my parents kind of liked the idea if I would even mention it, Yeah. And when I was in Florida and I was working as a journalist, and it had been a couple of years, I'm like, I can't see doing, 40 years of this. I don't know about this. So I started looking at alternatives, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just check out being a lawyer. And a cousin lawyer, my dad, I told him about it. He was instantly had one of my cousins call me, who was a lawyer, tell me what I needed to do, take the LSAT test. And I went over, there's a school, DeLand, called Stetson University, still there. And I took the LSAT thinking, well, this will probably just show that I really don't have the aptitude. But I did really well on the LSAT test. So then I applied at 4 different colleges, including University of Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Miami, and University of Florida. And they all accepted me. So I was like, crap, now I've got to pick a school. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, what? And I told them, they want to know kind of like what branch of law you want to go into. And it's like, I cannot be a trial lawyer, period. No way. I couldn't defend someone I know is guilty. I couldn't prosecute someone I know is innocent. I can't play that game. I just want the truth to be out there, and whatever that is. And all I can think is like maybe entertainment journalism, maybe contracts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, I just thought, I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't know why I've been carrying this around with me all this time. So,
well, it just gets lofted up there. It's like you could be a doctor or a lawyer or an astronaut.
And I know I couldn't be a doctor. That was out of the question. I mean, I don't want to see blood, so that would never work. But,
well, it's one of my best friends was an environmental lawyer, and I mean, she just got frustrated with the whole thing, and
you got to play the game, and that's just it.
Well, the thing is like with environmental law, it's like if you're on the side of the good guys,
right,
you're not going to make much money.
Right, exactly.
And so she would see all these fellow lawyers in the firm
working for giant corporations
leave to go work for these giant corporations. She'd always buy them a copy of Faust as a going away present.
Yeah. Well, and basically for a lawyer, you're just being paid to argue.
Right.
And I don't like arguing.
I don't like arguing. No. I mean, I like
logic.
I like in journalism, the investigative reporters, I like getting the truth out there.
Yeah.
But when you're supposed to hide some of the truth and exploit things that on other people that aren't even, it's like, I cannot do that. I can't play that game. And I thought of, corporate law and contract law and stuff like that. And a good friend of mine, she said, I know you. And she said, you would have made a lot of money. She said, but you would have been miserable. You would have had to have done something else because that just wouldn't satisfy you to be doing that. And that's nothing against people who are good at contract law because, I
have friends who were lawyers in there. I mean,
and I'm glad I've got friends that are lawyers.
Yeah. I mean, it's, some of them like it a lot. And then, like my friend Amy, she got tired of it after a while.
Yeah.
I could have never done something like that. I mean, I would have, when I got hired full-time as a writer at the paper, I was a part-time copy clerk, part-time graphic artist at the paper.
Okay.
And I could have stayed in graphic arts and gotten on there full-time probably.
Right.
And, I mean, I still do
You're good at that, yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate it. But it's like that's something...
WayneBledsoe.com, look him up, he's on the internet.
But that's, I never stopped doing it because I started writing.
Right.
And, I thought about being an actor, too, and trying to do that stuff. And, I've gotten on a couple of TV shows and things like that. Like, they do a lot of TV stuff here. And it's like, so you get to do, if you play your life right, you get to do kind of everything you want, but maybe not in a big way. I'm going to my funeral tomorrow for my friend Andy, and he wanted to be a singing cowboy. He was 96 when he died.
Yeah.
And it was funny because, like, the singing cowboy era was over.
Right.
But Andy became a singing cowboy on television here locally.
Right.
And, he kind of got to do everything he wanted to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think of movie reviewing? Because we both like movies.
Yeah.
We both dabbled in movie reviewing. We always had a full-time movie writer.
Right.
So, that was her job.
Yeah.
Do you think you could have, if music didn't exist and you weren't writing about music, could you have been a movie critic?
Easy. I mean, we both did that. I mean,
but movies wouldn't be what they are without music.
I know.
Yeah. And
it'd be different.
But after they laid off our friend Betsy, because it was those mass layoffs where they laid off everybody.
We'll just take this one movie reviewer and the whole company, and everyone will use his or her reviews.
Yeah,
and we don't need all these other reviewers.
It was so stupid.
Yeah,
but
I know.
But so I mean, I reviewed a lot of movies back then, and got a lot of hate mail.
Yeah, people feel different. I mean, it's a different brain you're playing with there.
Yeah, I was just curious about that. Are people more passionate about movie opinions than music opinions?
I don't think they're more passionate, but
they're more intolerant of criticism, I think. I think music, everybody feels like, it feels different to everybody else.
Maybe,
Movie, I feel like they think it's more black and white who win a great acting
no pun
performance
intended.
Versus...
Well, the one that I reviewed that
or color.
I got so much hate mail over is I reviewed The Lobster, which I thought was great.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
It's really dark, but I put in my review, if you don't find movies that are described as weird or you don't like dark comedy, you will not like this movie. Right. And I can't remember how I worded it, but I said that. And then like one of the guys that was mad at me, I said, well, did you read my review or did you just look at the stars? And he goes, well, I just looked at the stars.
Well,
I said,
no.
Well, I said, well, you should have read my review because I would have told you wouldn't have liked this movie.
This movie's not for you.
Right. And it was so funny because, I mean, it was like 3 people who were just pissed as all get out at me.
Right.
Because, if you don't like a weird, dark movie.
I think the reason some people might, I mean, there's more of a commitment to liking a movie when you're going to buy a ticket, and go there and sit through it. And with music, especially now, streaming music, you can listen to half of one song like, nah, I don't agree with them. So, you can forgive it when you don't have time and money invested, I guess.
Yeah, and if it's like you're interested in one song, that song may draw you into the album when you think about it. I mean, there's tons of songs that I listened to and didn't like it the first time.
Right.
But it got in my head and I wanted to listen to it again.
Right.
And I got so that I loved it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And you don't do that with a 2-hour movie.
No, you're not going to. Yeah, you can't say you have to see this movie 5 times before you appreciate it.
Well,
it's going to be hell with that.
Well, it's like,
and you'll hear that with albums. Well, you can listen to it over and over, to really absorb it all and
but there are
it.
Directors like Stanley Kubrick where it's always better the second time or third time or fourth time when you watch the movie.
I guess.
I know you don't do that.
I'll take your word for that.
Tons
I
of
don't
movies,
have that kind of time.
I mean, it's like The Shining. I hated The Shining when it.
Did you? I liked it the first time I saw it.
First time I saw it, I thought Jack Nicholson's already crazy in this movie. He's got no place to go. And then the second time I saw it, it's like, oh no, this is creepy. And now
the first time I was watching The Wife and the Boy. It was like because you knew he was crazy. And like, well, what's this? How's this going to affect his family?
But it's my comfort film now. It's one of my all-time favorite films. But
it's got a great soundtrack.
Oh yeah, it's everything about it is great. But the first, and Stephen King, hates it.
Yeah, he did a different version that.
Who directed The Shining?
Stanley Kubrick.
Oh, okay.
But it was like, I've often wondered. It would be impossible if you wrote it and you saw how different it was from what you wrote, maybe to appreciate how different. But I always wondered, did he only see it one time?
Right.
Because so many of these movies, like 2001 and all this other stuff, Lolita is like, it took me 3 times, I think, watching Lolita before I realized how funny
I'm not giving any movie 3 chances.
Well,
can't.
But I kind of liked it, and then it would come on TV and you'd start watching it, and it was like, oh yeah, this is better than I remembered. And then I watched it straight through, and it's like, I totally missed everything about this the first time I saw it. She's the hero, and it's a really, really black comedy.
Right. Well, while we're talking about movies, we can get to the something we both dabble in. Yeah, Wayne's like, okay, now we're talking. This is the topic. The first thing I did. My mom claims I did it in first grade, but the first project I did, and I don't even know if that was possible in first grade, was I wrote a play, and it was a mystery play, and it was about. Like 6 kids of this wealthy guy, and for some reason they were all from different countries, and I'm 6 years old, and his inheritance was up for bids, and one by one they all get killed, and then the lawyer was the one who somehow the lawyer was going to get all the money if the kids all died. And I used different.
Pretty dark for 6 years old.
yeah. Well, and that's why I had this, ambivalence about being a lawyer or even liking lawyers my whole life, but. I use these different colored pens for each dialogue of each one of the characters. It was probably only 2 pages long, too.
Yeah.
But my mom just thought it was the greatest thing in the world.
Well, for a 6-year-old to write a play,
yeah, that's
pretty impressive.
Yeah, I guess so. And
I'm impressed by you.
Well, thank you. But
it's what you've done with yourself since that I'm.
Yeah, I know. Well, somehow I keep coming back to that, and Wayne, you've got some. That was just a play. I didn't even know if it was a movie or a stage play or anything like that.
Well, I wrote plays I think the first one I wrote was in the 5th grade.
Oh, okay.
And it was like a parody of soap operas.
Okay.
but I think dialogue, when you're a kid, you're just going off everything else. But we did this Arthur Q. Smith book that went with an album that got the Grammy nomination, Brad Reeves and I. And then Tim Stafford, when the story came out about it, Tim Stafford from the band Blue Highway, who's also trying to be a screenwriter off and on, he contacted me. So we wrote a screenplay about Arthur Q. Smith, and we shopped it around.
When was this like?
This would
not that long ago. Right?
No, it's that would have been 2017, 16, 17, something like that, and. Anyway, I think writing screenplay is loads of fun, goes a lot quicker than writing other things. And when you've talked to so many people, the dialogue comes a lot naturally because you know how people answer you, and you remember that.
Right.
But, we hadn't done anything with it, but you came much closer to getting something done.
And I'm kind of doing stuff like that now. Yeah. It's like there are a couple of documentaries that I'm working on, and other projects and some things I want to go back to. But you're talking about in the 90s. And I was at the News Sentinel.
This is what brought this topic up today.
Yeah.
Because I said, I want you to tell this story.
Well, it's like I don't know how much of it to tell. It's like I didn't sign any NDAs or anything like that. But
well, you met with Dennis Hopper. And,
I did.
I mean,
yeah.
Tell the story.
All right. Well, I'm gonna leave the names of executives and people no one would know anyway. I'll leave those out. But so when I was in Florida, I was covering a comedy club down there, and it was a new comedy club. And a friend of mine, he owned the hotel where MTV stayed every year, where they did their spring break coverage from. And he opened this comedy club, and I got into that, and I was interviewing the comedians and all. And I'd hit it off with several of them, and there was one. After I moved up here, I hadn't heard from Alan in a while, but then he called me out of the blue and said that one of the comedians that I'd written about was looking for a screenplay, like some kind of TV pilot. And I was like, well, and okay, why are you telling me this? And the thing about Alan is he always thinks big, like biggest anything ever. Some reason my name popped into his head. I don't know if we'd talked in years. And he just said, well, could you write that? Could you write a TV screenplay? And I started saying, no, I don't. And I thought, yeah, I could do that. I mean, a TV pilot for a comedy, it's like...
It's 30 minutes.
It's 30 minutes, which means, 23 minutes, which means 23 pages. It's like I can... And double space, I can do that, And so I did it kind of as a lark, and he loved it. He's like one of my best cheerleaders my whole life. And he was in Denver at the time, so I went to Denver to meet with him and started going back and forth to Denver and to Phoenix. We went to Phoenix. We were meeting people who could like financially put it together. I went to like a crash course in film writing school in Denver, and then we started going to L.A. And the thing about him is he can get in anybody's door and talk to anybody about anything. He's just got this magnetism and charisma and everything, and he did. And I don't even know the chain of events, and we were meeting with potential investors, so like a plastic surgeon here and a business mogul there, whatever. And it was just all really surreal. And I was loving Los Angeles, so I really felt at home there, and I would love going there.
But one of the things, say about how movies are financed, because that's what you're referencing is, meeting with these different people.
Yeah. Just to,
because a lot of people don't realize that this is part of the process.
Oh yeah. I mean, you got to find your executive producer almost. But first, what you want is you want a contact. You want an attachment. So you want an actor or a director to attach themselves to your project.
So that gets people
interested.
interested.
And then that brings, and then you go talking to the rich people, and say, hey, I got this project. And everybody, especially in LA, they're always like, oh,
everybody's got a project.
Yeah, well, tell me about your project. Yeah, and that's actually how, I don't even know how to put this in order, but they wanted the TV screenplay, my friend and his brother, to convert it into a full-length film, like a feature film instead of a TV thing. I thought, okay, I can do that. So I did that, and it took a lot longer. It's more like 100 pages. You're going for 90 minutes, 2 hours.
But no longer than that.
Yeah, but longer than that.
I said no longer than that.
No,
I know you hate long movies.
No, you don't want to go. Nobody wants a long screenplay. Nobody wants to like it, and dialogue takes a different amount of time than exposition. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I had done that, and then I was just felt so overwhelmed by this comedy and it was a music-based movie. So right there, but. So I wrote a whole other screenplay, like on the side, and this is while I'm still working at the News Sentinel, and it was much darker, like a completely dark, like foreign film. And when we started meeting with executives, we met with talent agencies, we met with people working in the film industry for different companies and representing different big big companies still. And then one of them, I just felt so disconnected from all of it. And we went to one meeting, and they were on the beach in L.A., and I was looking out the window the whole time and just watching the beach and people out on and then afterward, I told my friend, I said, I'm sorry, I kind of blew that meeting. I didn't say anything. And then he calls me up and he said, he loved you. He thought you were like this really intense Southern writer, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, well, I was just basically brain dead. But he had read the little art film thing I wrote, and he had told me in the meeting, not my friend, but this executive guy, that, it'd be a great like art house movie or something in Europe or something like that. So I don't know. Suddenly balls were at play all over the place, and then Alan was at a Chuck E. Cheese, long story, and Jean-Claude Van Damme overheard him talking about the first movie, the comedy that we were talking about for the comedian. And Alan was telling some guy what the movie. Alan knew every page of that screenplay. Like I say, he's my biggest cheerleader. Talking about it was the best thing ever. I was like, I don't know about that. But he was talking to somebody who said, you're taking too long to tell me this. In LA, you can have to say it in 1 or 2 sentences. And he said, well, I'm not going to tell you about it then. And then Jean-Claude Van Damme was there and overheard Alan and came up to him and said, tell me about your screenplay. So Alan told him page by page, he had it all. And so he said, I want to meet with Chuck. So I met with Van Damme, who, was interested. Long story there. It wasn't really, I don't want to go into any details about what happened there, but the whole Hopper thing, that was it started with the art film thing that I wrote, and the executive at the film company who said he needed help with a script doctoring project because they had a screenplay that wasn't suitable for the film company that was going to make it. But, Hopper was interested in it, and it was a friend of his. And I probably don't want to say much more than that, except I got to meet Hopper, who didn't even know who I was at first. And we had a meeting at his house. Right. And he was very charming, and there were a lot of producers there who didn't know me. Nobody even knew why I was there, except my friend. And an argument kind of erupted with some of the producers, and Hopper wasn't sure about the screenplay and if it was suitable, and then my friend said that I'd rewritten the whole thing, and he wanted to see it. And anyway, it was really, really close because it had a couple of big actors attached to it, and of course him directing. And
you could say the big actors who were attached to it.
Well, I don't know, can I? Well, that narrows it down too much, and I don't know about. Anyway, there were big people in the night. Well, I just keep thinking I don't want to identify some people that wouldn't want to be identified.
Okay,
even though I didn't sign any NDAs, I could probably sit here and talk about all of it. But anyway. Yeah. So all that was going on, and then the whole Van Damme thing came back around, and my friend pitched to his agent something I was working on that I wasn't working on. I hadn't even thought about. I just mentioned it once in a 5-minute conversation, and I ended up going to Europe and going to Hungary to kind of do background on that, and came back and decided I didn't like that idea, so I kind of rewrote it as a treatment, Then at that point, my friend was involved in another movie, which I guess I could. Anyway, Steve Buscemi and Mickey
say the name
Rourke
of the movie.
Anyway, I don't know. I'm getting uncomfortable.
Oh,
now.
come on now, Chuck.
Well, that they got that done, and my life changed, and I didn't have the extra time I used to have. An editor wanted me to be the entertainment editor, which was going to suddenly, I'm not going to have all this. I was working on the copy desk and doing the front page stuff. So I was just working 8-hour days. I was like a union.
I still feel guilty about trying to convince you to become it.
Well, everybody in the entertainment department, for whatever reason, they wanted me to be the editor. And
you're the best editor we ever had.
Well, thank you. But it ended up beginning of the end of me having time to do that kind of stuff. But my friend and I have reconnected periodically. He did a documentary called Spring Broke about 15 years ago, I guess, 10 years ago. Yeah. And I'm interviewed in that, and it's about the glory days of Daytona Beach spring break. And we got some other things that we're cooking, and including podcasts. You know? So here we are. But yeah,
and they're listening to us in Greece.
Yeah, and they're listening to us in Greece and Lithuania.
And they're going, wonder what that movie was.
Well, everything ended up in turnaround and complicated, and that's the big Hollywood story. Is almost everything that sounds like, oh, this is going to happen, and it doesn't. You know, last week I mentioned Gore Verbinski movie. Mm-hmm. The last 10 years, he's kind of like been just tangled. He had like one movie that didn't make him happy, and everything else was falling through. And people put years into a project that falls through, and it's nobody's fault, you know. But we gave it a go, and I think you know, and I'm now looking forward to like developing more, maybe going back to some stuff I'd written back then and some stuff I want to do. The Good Boy movie, I've mentioned before that I wanted to do a movie where a dog would be the only one that could see ghosts, and now that movie's been made. So,
well, that is something that people don't appreciate is the whole zeitgeist thing. Mm-hmm. There are ideas out there, just everything is building up. You know, all these signals are coming in, and people get the same ideas. Yeah.
Well, and it's just weird, like the art film I mentioned that for some reason got the one guy wanting me to do like a rewrite. It ended up in the hands of this woman, the wife of a plastic surgeon in L.A. And there are these wives whose, and I mean there could be husbands too, but their spouses make a lot of money and they want something to do too, and she just kind of took that under her wing, and she was like interested in finding casting for it and all that stuff. And then I think they got divorced, and I don't know, it's like stuff pops up and you get a day or two of like, oh my God, this is really going to happen. I can't believe, what am I going to do? Do I have to move to LA? You know? And then the next day it's like, oh, that didn't happen.
No.
and it's like everybody who makes it big, and you just got to stick to it. I will say one more thing. When we were at a big talent agency, a CAA, and we were talking there, and they had boxes everywhere, and I asked what was in the boxes, and they said those are all screenplays that people have sent them unsolicited, and that a lot of them, and they said that some of these could have like Oscar-winning pictures in them, but without connections. If you're not attached in any way to it, they're not going to read a screenplay from Michigan or Idaho that nobody asked for.
And that's the thing, people are afraid to read screenplays because if they have an idea and it's a similar idea, then somebody's going to accuse them of stealing that idea. And I mean, it's the same thing with music and everything else. People say, oh, they used to always call me and say, I need to send this to this artist. And I said, well, they're probably not going to get it unless you get it to them some other way.
Probably not going to open, because then if they do any song that even sounds a little bit like it, then you can go in and claim, you know, that they...
Reminds me of my band in Memphis. It was my first band that we were just playing songs I wrote, and we played around Memphis for a couple of years, and then we won a Battle of the Bands, and the winner of the Battle of the Bands got an entry in South by Southwest and money to go down there to help support it. And I printed up cassettes of our demo tape and had a whole box of them, and they had Xerox copied, the J cards for the cassettes, and I thought this is going to be it. Right. And South by Southwest is a conference. There's live music everywhere, but it's also a music business conference. Yeah. And so we went into the conference, and there were these huge conference tables, and they were just heaping with CDs and T-shirts and, I mean, cassettes. Nobody had cassettes. Right. And I was just like with my little box of 15 cassettes, and I was like, But I was also working at a record store then. I was the buyer at the record store, so I knew all the record labels. And Jefferson Holt, who was the lawyer for REM, had started his own label, Doggone Records. And I'd heard some of their stuff, and I liked him, and I thought, I'm gonna find that guy. Yeah. And so I finally found him, and he had, Doggone Records had a booth, and I said, here's a cassette. And he said, I'll try to get to it. And he turned around and dropped it into a cardboard box. It looked like a refrigerator box full of cassettes and CDs. And I was like, we have no chance at all.
Right. Yeah, my heart broke sitting in the CAA office and just seeing boxes and boxes. Yeah. And they were throwing all of them on top of each other from wherever. And it was like, and they just said, well, we're probably not going to look at it.
It's who you know.
That's the way it works.
It is who you know. It's who you know and who you can get an attachment to and who has the money to invest. And then people just get sketchy and they drop out for this or that. And you got to keep at it. And I don't know, journalism didn't seem that bad at that point.
Well, that's
But
why
here I am again.
That's why I ended up a counselor
Yeah.
because I was trying to make it in the music business, and I realized that I think I may have said on one of our podcasts that I was the buyer for the store, so the record label guys came to me and said, "You need to load up on this guy. He's going to be great. He's going to be the next big hit." So I'd buy a whole of them and make an end cap display, and we'd sell 2.
Right.
And the next month, that guy would come back in and say, "Oh, you got to get this guy." And I go, "Well, what about that guy?"
Yeah.
Oh, he's nowhere. And I just realized that the artists are just like Play-Doh in the Play-Doh Fun Factory. I mean, it's like if you don't make a hit, there's a line of other bands that are all waiting to take that chance to grab the brass ring.
Yeah. Well, Wayne, are you doing now that you're retired? The screenplay is that I know you're.
I've got a play I'm working on.
Okay.
I don't have any screenplays. I mean, Tim and I are going to revisit that screenplay at some point and add some stuff to it. Mm-hmm. But we both really liked it. Thought it turned out really well. But it's just getting it to the right person.
Right.
And and it's also, since it's a historical thing, it would be more expensive to produce because you'd have to have period sets and period clothes and things like that.
That's the thing about documentaries is they're not, unless you're doing reenactments for the documentary, which that drives up your price. But a documentary is a lot easier to write because it's almost like journalism.
Yeah.
It's like a cross between making a regular movie and doing journalism.
Yeah, and it also has quite a few characters, and that's one of the things people don't recognize when you're trying to get a movie made. They look at the money. They look at the number of actors that they're going to have to pay.
Yeah.
And you see like a lot of really cheap independent movies, if you start counting the actors in it, there's way less in those movies than there are in the big movies because, that's an expense.
Right.
Well, I had a little bit of an experience with movie making in that an album of mine, a couple albums back, I think I put it out in 2014. It's called Flirting with Azrael, and if you go out online, you can find it. But I had been doing some soundtrack work with a guy here locally who made movies, and I gave him a copy of that record, and he just kind of fell in love with it. And at first, they were going to make a series of like a short film for each song, and such that they knitted together into a movie, but it was going to be like a web series. But then he went to go look for financing and all that, and there's just no financing model for a web series, but there's lots of models for making an independent movie.
Right.
And so that's what we ended up turning it into. But man, that's a whole world that I'd never been to that. Well, they ended up making the movie.
Yeah, I mean, these days with all the streaming services, there is more of a
they need content
for web series or anything. They do need content.
Yeah, but it's like we have Jupiter Entertainment here in Knoxville that does a lot of the true crime doc things.
Yeah.
On IDTV and lots of Oxygen, I think, different places, and you get a bit part in that, a non-speaking part. It's like $50
right
for a couple hours.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
There's more opportunity now to do stuff like that if you want to do it.
Right. It's just not big money.
Right. It's not big money, not going to be seen. I played an imaginary murderer and and then a disgruntled ex-husband with no dialogue.
Well, I don't know where this came from.
Where it got
without
to
music. Yeah.
Well, it went somewhere.
Yeah. Wayne wanted to talk about screenplay writing, and I said, well,
I wanted you to tell your stories because
I'll have to think about it if I want to go any deeper than that. But I just want to be cautious. Don't want to say anything that'll come back to bite me in any way. Okay, so recommendations.
Well, speaking of people who stuck with it for a long, long time, Dale Dickey, who I was in plays with back in the 70s.
Wow.
She went to New York and did a lot of work there, and then she became a film actress. I think her first big break was Jack Nicholson movie. I think The Pledge, maybe. I can't remember which one it was. But anyway, Dale has gone on and done all sorts of good stuff. But she is in a 2023 movie that I just watched called The G.
Okay.
And the G stands for the Granny.
Right. just the letter G?
Just the letter G. It's just called The G. And I thought it was great. It's a lot of fun. She plays the wife of a man who's sort of an invalid, and these people decide that she's not taking the family and the state, whatever, decide that she's not taking good enough care of him, and they fall into a scam where people file for guardianship and then take all the person's money. They put them into a nursing home and then take their money. And she is there, goes to the nursing home with her husband, and she's more than they expected. She's got like a criminal background and friends in Texas.
Really? The G does?
The G. And it's like, you know, Dale, like, ever since she started aging, man, she has just like embraced every wrinkle on her face.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She is like, you see her in everything because she's just so distinctive looking, and she's a great actress.
Yeah.
And
she was the lead in a really, really quiet movie called A Love Song a few years ago.
And it was terrific. It was
terrific.
a romance.
It was a romance.
I remember when that came out, and I'm thinking, it's supposedly it's kind of slow and kind of, you think big things are going to happen, but it's
just so sweet.
It's sweet.
She had a pivotal role in Winter's Bone.
Winter's Bone is
that was a real creepy.
And that was Jennifer Lawrence's.
That was
first,
one of her first movies, one of her big
roles.
ones. But yeah, it was funny because Dale told me that they thought she did such a good job in Winter's Bone that the people thought somebody just found her. And she'd been in 100 movies or something before that.
Look her up, and she's been in thousands of movies almost. It seems like she's just been in so many movies.
She was in
one of the Iron Man movies.
Yeah, and she was in My Name Is Earl as the daytime hooker.
Yeah. Well, yeah, what was her name? Peggy or something? The daytime hooker.
Yeah.
So My Name Is Earl. She was a regular there. So,
but this one it's not like, you know, big, you know, guns a-blazing sort of an action film, but it's one where she plays a real badass.
Yeah.
And you just really enjoy watching her. She's basically, she has some money put away that she's saving for her granddaughter, who's not her blood granddaughter, but she's the one that's been nice to her in the family.
Right.
And it's just so much fun watching kind of the reveals to find out who she was and who she knows.
Yeah.
And I saw it on Tubi, which I don't recommend because it was so full of commercials that it drove me crazy.
Yeah.
And it's got pacing that it really messes it up with
But
the
it's
commercials.
free.
But yeah, it's free.
So it's free.
But you can find it. But if you got to pay $5 to rent it, pay the $5 because it's loads of fun.
Okay. You got a recommendation, John?
I do. I just discovered this. I was just scrolling through Netflix looking for something to watch, and I found a movie from 2024. It's a documentary called Secret Mall Apartment, and it's set in Providence, Rhode Island. And apparently in the late 90s, like has happened to many cities, the core of the city just was deserted. I mean, it was like everybody moved to the suburbs, and so after 5 o'clock, the city was just dead, and it was crime-ridden and boarded up buildings. And Rhode Island's history was built on a series of mills. They made all kinds of fabrics and clothing and everything. And so, a bunch of civic leaders decided that they needed to do something to revitalize downtown. So they proposed this gigantic mall right in the middle of downtown Providence. And it's Providence Place Mall.
Right.
And it's like 5 layers, and it's built right in the middle of town where the river comes right around it and the interstates come right around it. And it's just this behemoth of a mall. And right across the interstate was where all the mill buildings were. And that had turned into like an artist colony. And there were people, they weren't squatting. I mean, they were paying rent on these buildings, but it was just like they had live concerts, and artists would move into rooms and do their sculpting or whatever they did, and just had this really nice artist community there. And they watched this mall being built across the interstate from them. And one of them, who was an art teacher from Rhode Island College of Design, noticed as they were building it, he noticed that there was like a cavity in the middle of the building where they were building it, and he just got really fascinated with it. He said, I don't know what they're going to use that space for. And the mall got built, and it all got covered up, and he just snooped around and found a way to get in through a little side. There was a gap in the wall, and he went through there, and they found this open space in the middle that's not open to the mall or open to anywhere. Right. And it was him and 7 other artists, and they made a pact that you can't tell anyone about this. And they went to like Salvation Army and bought furniture and bought tables and like bought a big china hutch and put plates and everything, and they ran an extension cord into a basement outlet and powered it up. They had TV and a dinner table, and they had it for almost 5 years.
Wow.
And finally, the main artist guy, he had a friend of his in town, and he was like, I just got to show her this. And so he showed it to her, and somehow when he went to show it to her, some security guards heard them and discovered the apartment.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
But it goes into so much more than that, because the artist, he viewed this apartment as a work of art. Mm-hmm. He said, I want to make it as close to a real living, because the civic leaders were talking about, we want to make most use of all the space. And he's like, well, here's a whole big space you're not even using, so I'm going to use it. And it's just really fascinating. It's called Secret Mall Apartment.
On Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
Cool.
Super fun.
All right. I've got Crime 101. That's a movie, came out in February in theaters. It's directed by Bart Layton, who's not really known for movies, but he produced this British docudrama TV series that was on from 2006 to 2022. So he's got a long experience in that. And it's called Banged Up Abroad. But anyway, Crime 101 stars Chris Hemsworth as a jewel thief, and Mark Ruffalo it's the movie set in Los Angeles, and Mark Ruffalo as a LAPD detective, and Halle Berry as an insurance broker to elite clients, and Barry Cogan, who's like a thug for hire. And I thought the last thing I want to see is a movie about a jewel thief, because who even makes movies about jewel thieves in 2026? Yeah. Who even is a jewel thief? But the reviews just kept staying positive, and Rotten Tomatoes is a high rating, and with fans and with critics. And I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a chance. And what really sets it apart is the layers that all these characters have. It's not like a Bond film, or like I saw part of a Mission Impossible the other day. It was like just so incredibly unbelievable, and everyone was, cardboard cutout characters, and everybody was too cool for school. All of these people are really flawed, and they've all got like issues. Like Chris Hemsworth, it starts with, he's a serial jewel thief, and he's been stealing along the 101 in LA, which is like a key thoroughfare. And he almost gets killed in one of his things, and it just threw him way off, because he's never been in any danger, and he pulls off like kidnappings and all this stuff. And he has like just this neurosis, and he's just like stress and anxiety and can't relate to women. And Ruffalo, you can imagine, he plays a conflicted guy. He's got a theory on who's doing this with the police department, and he's presenting it, and his supervisor or whatever is trying to get him to dial it back, and telling him constantly all the mistakes he's making. And of course Ruffalo plays, kind of broken well. And then Halle Berry is great as this insurance broker, because she's getting older, and they brought a new young woman in, and they send sexy people out to sell these insurance deals, And so all of a sudden she feels like she's being factored out and not sure what her future is going to be. And these three are kind of working around each other, and it's like they're all flawed, and you kind of feel for all of them. And there's just so much more depth to their characters than you would expect in a movie like this. And Barry Cogan, he's just a psychopath. He's like a problem for everybody, but that's kind of interesting in its own way. Anyway, so I think the main difference, and I'm not, I wasn't surprised that Ruffalo and Halle Berry would be, really good actors, but Chris Hemsworth is fantastic. Huh. And I think that, being the hunk for a long time, you kind of get dismissed as like, well, he didn't really have any depth to his
characters.
Just
easy on the eyes.
Yeah, and Halle Berry is too, but she's managed to put in her dues and become a great actor, and then it's the same thing with Hemsworth. It's like, wow, this was like a really complex character. So it ended up being a good ride, not the kind of thing I would ever deliberately watch, but I was convinced.
Where do you see it?
It's in the theaters.
I saw it at the theaters like a couple of weeks ago, so It's probably streaming in places now. Now streaming, I guess.
Let's see. It may still be.
Yeah, it might be, but a lot of other movies have been coming out, so it's probably not in theaters now.
And where do you see the G?
Like I said, Tubi is one of the places, but
you
it
can
has
rent
commercials. But you can rent it, and I think it's like a $5 rental. And after I started on Tubi, I was like, man, I wish I'd rented this. It's like I'm getting really tired of these commercials, and it's messing up the pacing.
Right.
But yeah.
Got music?
I do. I want to recommend a 2006 album by an artist named Eef Barzilay. Eef Barzilay was
what?
How do you spell that?
It's EEF, and then Barzilay is pretty much the way it sounds.
Okay.
Barzelay. He's actually an Israeli-born member of the band Clem Snide.
I remember them.
And he's sort of like his solo stuff reminds me of Loudon Wainwright III. If Loudon Wainwright was writing more about other people. But the album is Bitter Honey. And it's one of those things that the first song is so good that I sometimes don't make it past the first song because I listen to it so many times. But the Ballad of Bitter Honey is about this woman that was, the first line is, "That was my ass you saw bouncing next to Ludacris. It's only on screen for a second, but it's kind of hard to miss. And all those other hoochie skanks, they ain't got shit on me. And one of Nelly's bodyguards, he totally agrees." But
All right.
It's a really sweet song when you get to the end of it. And it's just like, a woman who's a survivor.
Is it just like alt rock or?
Well, it's folky. That's what it is.
Okay.
It's like I said, it's more like Loudon Wainwright or somebody.
Okay.
In fact, his voice sounds quite a bit like Loudon. But it's different enough so that you just don't feel like he's copying him or anything.
Right.
But he's a good songwriter. Clem Snide was a good band. And then his solo stuff, this is the one I'd recommend right off the bat because it's got a lot of great stuff. But that song, that's become a favorite for years. I love that song.
All right. John?
I just discovered this. If you're a fan of the English band Squeeze, they just released a new record, first in 11 years. And it turns out it's a record that Glenn Tilbrook and Chris Difford wrote together when they were teenagers. Huh. It's a concept. It's like a concept album about a nightclub called Trixie's. And it's really good. They've recorded it currently they're old men now, but they know their way around studio and know how to record a good pop song. It's really good. It's called Trixie's. It tells a story. It's the great pop song writing of Difford and Tilbrook, who when they first came out, people were saying
the whole album tells one story.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When Squeeze first came out, people were calling Difford and Tilbrook the next Lennon and McCartney. They're that good of songwriters. But I was really surprised that after all this time, they're still putting out good stuff.
Sure.
Squeeze,
I'm surprised too.
Trixies from this year. Just came out like last week.
Okay. Well, I've got also a brand new one. It's Harry Styles.
Uh-oh.
Kiss all the time, disco occasionally. So that's the name of it. So he's telling people to kiss all the time and disco occasionally. This came out early March 2026, so it's a new release. I like to compare Harry Styles, not sonically, but his career path to Justin Timberlake. Because Timberlake, of course, was in NSYNC in 1995 when that boy band formed. And about 15 years later, Harry Styles was in One Direction when they formed in 2010. They were both kind of the biggest stars of their individual bands, and then they both went solo and have had big solo careers. Timberlake's now 45, and Harry Styles is 32 now. He's been doing solo albums for about 10 years, and this one is it's very mature. He's 32, but he's a very kind of a soft soul and everything. And I guess this might be what they call disco now, but it's not my idea of what disco is. But it's more electronic type music, but it's like a cerebral kind of danceable electronic music, but not overt just dance. And the music, it gets mixed up from song to song, but it's a very cohesive album. It's very, all the songs. It's not a collection of singles at all. It's more of telling a story of a guy who's in his 30s. And you get that sense that, when you pass from your 20s to your 30s, you're still young, but you're kind of like running out of young years, and you're kind of getting in mind like where you're going to go with your life. And there's a lot of kind of conflict but peace in the lyrics. And I like that he uses this soft voice like on every song, no matter how rowdy the music might get. So it's really well done. The song Aperture, I think that was the first single. It kind of sets the tone for the whole album. It is electronic. The vocals are really dreamy, and it's cerebral. It's believe it or not. And it's just kind of this aesthetic that he hitched into. And he's working again with Kid Harpoon and Tyler Johnson. Those are the two guys he's worked with all the time, consistently. And they're like a team, too. And he has a songwriting credit on every song. Some of it Harry wrote all by himself. So he's definitely got input in this. And these other guys, they're the ones behind his big hit, As It Was, and all that. So he's sticking with the same team. I admire the cohesion of it, because it's like a mature person capturing this time in his life and sharing it with other people, and it's got a kind-heartedness to it, and some disappointment and all. But again, it's not a dance album. The disco occasionally, I think, is going to throw people off, because it is rhythmic. You could dance to it, but it's not a banger type stuff you're going to hear in big bars at raves and stuff like that. Maybe
it was kind of funny that you mentioned that, because I got the recommendation for that Squeeze record. I get a email blast from Paste magazine, and about once every month they'll say, "Here's 12 new albums to stream."
Right,
and that's where I got the Squeeze. But also in that was that Harry Styles.
Mention Harry Styles, yeah.
So, and I've been impressed with their taste in music. So.
I look forward to Paste is pretty reliable. I look forward to this for Harry, because a lot of young guys that come out, like Somber and Benson Boone and all that, who are maybe 10 years younger than him. He's kind of in the Taylor Swift position, and then the young ones are the today people. But I don't know, he has just such a good vibe about him, and it's good beyond disco occasionally. I'm wondering if that title is going to throw people off, but anyway, for sure, Harry Styles.
Cool.
Kiss all the time, disco occasionally. Okay, well, we're done here. You can find us on social media, on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. Why I don't write this down, I don't know. X, TikTok, and wherever else. And you can also write us with questions and feedback. And if you have any suggestions for topics, we'd love to hear them. We might go off target like we did today.
As you can tell, we can talk about
starting with what would we do without music? Why, we would talk about screenplays, I guess. But anyway, I hope you come back to us. Hello again to Greece. I think they say the same thing, hello or goodbye. So yasu and adios.
You've been listening to How We Heard It with Chuck Campbell and Wayne Bledsoe, a podcast about music, movies, art, culture, whatever it is that's on their mind. How We Heard It was recorded at the Arbor Studio in Knoxville, Tennessee by me, John Baker. How We Heard It is a Cozy Planet production. If listening to this podcast has given you a burning sensation, then we recommend you sit in a hot tub until your symptoms fade away. If you'd like to reach out to Chuck or Wayne, or even me, you can send an email to howweheardit@gmail.com. So thank you for listening, and come on back and we'll have another episode for you next week.